There's a story I heard once about a man who walked into a Ferrari dealership in jeans and a faded t-shirt. The salesman barely looked up. 20 minutes later, that same man walked out having paid cash for a car that costs more than most people's houses. And here's the thing, he didn't even flinch. Not because he didn't care about money, he cared more than almost anyone you'll ever meet. In fact, he flinched plenty over a $15 lunch the week before. But this car? This car passed his test. He used something I want to talk to you about today. It's called the 1% rule, and once you understand it, I promise you'll never look at a purchase the same way again. Now, before we go any further, let me tell you what this is not. This isn't one of those tricks where rich people are secretly cheap. It isn't about clipping coupons or driving a beat-up Toyota even though you have $10 million in the bank. Those are personality things. Some wealthy people are frugal, some are flashy. That's not what we're talking about. The 1% rule is a way of thinking, a filter, a question they ask before they pull out a credit card or sign a contract, and it's so simple that when I first heard it explained to me, I almost laughed. It can't be that easy. But it is. Here's the rule. If something costs less than 1% of your net worth, you don't agonize over it. You just decide, yes or no. Move on with your life. But if something costs more than 1% of your net worth, you slow down. You think. You actually do the work of figuring out if it's worth it. That's it. That's the whole thing. But hold on. Because the magic isn't really in the rule itself. The magic is in what the rule does to your brain. So let me walk you through this slowly, because I want you to actually feel why this works. Most of us, and I mean almost everyone listening to this right now, we make money decisions based on the absolute number on the price tag. $200, $5,000, $40,000. We see that number, and we have an emotional reaction to it. Big number, scary. Small number, fine. And we use that gut feeling to decide whether to spend. The problem is, that number means nothing without context. $200 to someone making $30,000 a year is a completely different thing than $200 to someone making $3 million. But our brains don't naturally do that math. Our brains just react. Wealthy people, the ones who actually stay wealthy, they figured out a long time ago that this gut reaction is their enemy. It makes them stress about small things and ignore big things. They'll spend an hour clipping coupons to save $15 on groceries, then drop $40,000 on a kitchen renovation without doing any research at all. Because $40,000 sounds big and $15 sounds small, but as a percentage of what they have, it's the opposite that matters. So they invented this filter, the 1% rule, and it works in both directions. Let me give you an example. Say someone has a net worth of $1 million. Not crazy rich, but comfortable. 1% of that is $10,000. So if this person is buying something that costs less than $10,000, they barely think about it. A new laptop? Just buy it. A weekend trip? Book it. A nice dinner with friends? Don't even look at the menu prices. This sounds insane to most people. We're trained to compare prices, to agonize over whether the $70 dinner is worth it versus the $40 one, to spend 3 weekends researching a $600 appliance. But think about what that mental energy costs. Think about the hours of your life you've spent worrying about purchases that, in the end, were never going to make or break your finances. 3 weekends of stress over a $600 microwave. Was the difference between the cheapest one and the best one ever going to change your life? Of course not. So why did you spend so much of your most precious resource, your attention, on it? That's the first part of the rule. Below 1%? Just decide. Don't waste your brain. But here's where it gets interesting. Above 1%, you do the opposite. You become almost paranoid. You research, you negotiate, you sleep on it, you ask people you trust, you walk away and come back. Because at this point, you're spending real money. Money that if you mess it up, you'll feel. And this is where most regular people get it backwards. They blow through small decisions impulsively because they think small decisions don't matter. Then they make huge decisions, like buying a car or a house or signing a 5-year lease, with about the same amount of thought they put into picking a sandwich at lunch. I once knew a guy who spent 45 minutes deciding which phone case to buy. 45 minutes. He read every review. He compared materials. He stressed about colors. Then, a week later, he bought a $40,000 truck because the salesman was nice and they had it in stock. He spent more time on the $8 phone case than the $40,000 vehicle. That's not stupid. That's just human. Our brains are not built for this kind of math. We have to install the rule deliberately. Okay. So let's talk about how to actually use this in your own life. Because I know what you might be thinking. I don't have $1 million net worth. I'm not buying yachts. Does this still apply to me? Yes. Maybe even more so. Whatever your number is, find 1% of it. Net worth, by the way, just means everything you own minus everything you owe. If you have a $50,000 net worth, your 1% is $500. If you have $10,000, it's $100. If you have $100,000, it's $1,000. Now here's what changes. Below that line, stop torturing yourself. The $30 shirt? If you want it, buy it. The $40 dinner? Don't look at the menu prices. The $100 concert ticket? Just go. You're not going to get rich by saying no to $40 dinners. You're going to get tired and resentful and miserable, but above that line, get serious. Really serious. The $1,000 couch? Now we're in the zone. Now you research. Now you ask if you actually need a new couch or if the old one is fine. Now you wait a week before deciding. Now you check 3 stores. Now you negotiate, and the bigger the percentage, the more careful you get. A purchase that's 5% of your net worth? That's a major decision. 10%? That's the kind of thing that can change your trajectory. People shouldn't make 10% decisions in an afternoon, but they do, all the time. There's something else this rule does that I find kind of beautiful. It scales with you. As you build wealth, your 1% grows. Things that used to feel like big decisions become small ones. You're not held hostage by the same anxiety forever. The cost of living a decent life in your head doesn't keep climbing as your wealth climbs. You free yourself from the small stuff faster. And on the other end, things that you used to think were luxuries become reasonable. The wealthy person buying that Ferrari? It wasn't reckless. He probably had a net worth somewhere north of 50 million. The car was less than 1%. To him, it was the equivalent of you buying a nice pair of running shoes. A treat, but not something to lose sleep over. That sounds offensive at first. It feels unfair. But the rule itself is fair. It's the same rule for everyone. The math just gives you different answers, depending on where you are. Now I want to push back on something because I don't want to oversimplify. The 1% rule isn't a license to spend without thinking. It's a license to stop thinking about the wrong things. There's a version of this rule that's gone wrong. Some people hear it and they say, "Great, I can just buy whatever's under 1%. But here's the thing. A lot of small purchases add up to one big one. $20 a day on coffee and lunch and small impulse buys can be $600 a month. $7,000 a year. That's not a 1% decision anymore. That's the cumulative weight of 1,000 tiny ones. So the rule has a sibling. Watch the patterns. Individual small decisions don't matter, but repeating small decisions every single day, those become big ones in disguise. If you find yourself buying something every day, even if each individual purchase is well under 1%, ask yourself what the yearly total looks like. Sometimes that yearly number will surprise you. And then you can decide, with clear eyes, if it's worth it. The point of the rule isn't to spend more or to spend less. It's to spend with attention. To put your thinking where it actually matters. To stop wasting cognitive energy on decisions that don't move the needle and start putting real thought into the ones that do. Let me tell you what happens when you actually live this way for a few months. The first thing you notice is relief. You stop feeling guilty about small things. The $4 coffee stops being a moral failing. The $80 dinner with friends stops being a sin. You give yourself permission to enjoy your life at its current scale. The second thing you notice is sharpness. When something big comes along, you actually pay attention. You don't make rushed decisions. You don't sign things you haven't read. You don't say yes to a salesman because you feel awkward saying no. You become harder to manipulate because you've learned the difference between something that matters and something that doesn't, and you no longer treat them the same. The third thing you notice, and this one takes longer, is that your money starts to behave differently. Because you're not bleeding it out in small impulsive ways, and because you're not making catastrophic decisions in big ones, the curve starts to bend in your favor. Slowly at first, then faster. Wealth, real wealth, is not built by clipping coupons. It's built by getting the big decisions right and not torturing yourself over the small ones. Here's the deeper truth I want to leave you with. Money is just a way of measuring time and choices. Every dollar you spend is a piece of your life you're trading. The 1% rule isn't really about money at all. It's about where you put your attention. It's about refusing to spend mental energy on things that don't deserve it, so you have more energy for the things that do. Most of us are walking around exhausted, worried about everything, trying to optimize every single decision, and it's making us worse at the decisions that actually matter. The rich, the ones who built it themselves and kept it, they figured out that you can't care about everything equally. You have to choose. You have to set a line. Below the line, you act. Above the line, you think. And life gets a lot quieter once you do. So here's my challenge to you. Calculate your 1% today. Sit down for 10 minutes, figure out roughly what you own, subtract what you owe, and find 1% of that number. Write it down, put it on your phone, and then for the next 30 days, try this rule on. Stop agonizing over things below your line. Start really thinking about things above it. See what happens. I think you'll be surprised. I think you'll find that a lot of the stress you've been carrying around about money was never about the money at all. It was about the way you were thinking about it. The rich didn't get there by being smarter than you. Most of them aren't. They got there by knowing where to look and where not to look. The 1% rule is one of the simplest, most powerful versions of that wisdom I've ever come across. Try it. See for yourself. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you walk into a store in jeans and a t-shirt, you'll feel a little bit of what that man felt. Not arrogance, not flash, just clarity. The quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly which decisions deserve their attention and which ones don't. That's the real wealth. The rest is just numbers.